Tranx 2000. There are two major generations. The first generation, when you turn the Tranx on, it will blink and make a bunch of noises and just comes on eventually after a few seconds. That's what this one is. The second generation will actually count down from 9 down to 0 here, and then it'll blink a couple times, make some noises, and come on. So there's no really major difference other than the older version will do earlier transmissions, which we have cables for everything. The newer version will work on like the 5R110 Allison transmissions, the newer stuff. So the only versions that we need, the second version is for like the Allison and the 5R110, and they have dedicated cables and dedicated machines specifically for that, so you don't ever have to worry about ordering the right one. That's all taken care of. So the two, you would just basically, for the second generation, if you need one for an Allison pre-4th generation or the 5R110, you just simply call Joe Carter or whoever's over failure analysis at the time and request to see if it's in stock, and if it is, he'll make it available, give you the Tranx number, and then you'll order it from there. That way it's not available all the time. Those are dedicated again. All right, so we're going to go ahead and power this up. Normally the power cord goes into the black box, but today we're doing a calibration, so we're powering it up through the blue box. It doesn't really matter for our purposes where we have the power at for this test. So this is, again, the first generation. It's making a bunch of beeps. When it's done beeping and the solenoid test light is on, it is ready to rock and roll. So the first step is to direct the customer to the information that we send them as far as a transmission code. So say we're working on let's see here, a 4R100. At the very top right of the page, there's a transmission code. Have them enter that code in first off. And before we get too involved into this, ensure that the customer has zip tied the black box and all the cables away from the exhaust and the dry shaft and all that good stuff. It should be something that you shouldn't have to tell them, but obviously want to make sure everything's secure. Obviously, we don't want to run this in the rain too. I've got the cover off on this one. So this is the top of the cover of the black box, which goes under the vehicle. There are no seals. So if you operate it in the rain, the Tranx will take on water, can take on water and ruin it. Sometimes beyond what I can fix. So after you enter in your code, hit enter. And then solenoid test is default. So you can go through the solenoid. So on the 4R100, it says gear 1, output 1. So gear 1 is here, output is here. And all the solenoid tests, you'll basically keep everything together as 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 5 to 5, 6 to 6, 7 to 7. The only one that's going to alter is the GM, and EPC solenoid would be 7 here and 8 here. So if we want to test resistance on channel 1, which is solenoid 1, it defaults to amps. Have them hit ohms. There's also a spec in there for amps. I always give them the option, either ohms or amps. They can check their system voltage. And so the ohms should be 21 to 30. I'm not actually hooked up. I'm hooked up to a calibration tool, so it's not going to be correct. And then solenoid 2. And then lockup is actually channel 5, so we skip over to 5. And then lockup, if it's an on-off, you should be just fine reading ohms and amps. If not, then if it's a PWM, you'll want to hit min max, hit the up button, and that will give it a duty cycle and give you the correct reading. And then coast clutch solenoid is 6, and then EPC, and that's just an on-off solenoid. So the PWMs is what you got to worry about, and EPC solenoid is always a PWM solenoid. So you'll want to hit. A lot of times it'll guide you what to put the duty cycle at. This one does not, so I always go max when it doesn't say. Sometimes it'll say 20%, sometimes it'll say 50%, so just follow the instructions. And just use common sense too. If it says min max and it doesn't give you anything, obviously you're going to max out the duty cycle. So it's 4.3 to 6.5. Again, I'm not hooked up to anything. So that is the solenoid test. So if we want to go to shift test, you'll actually want to make sure, and this is in the instructions too, make sure the customer comes to a stop, puts it in park, shuts the vehicle off. I don't ever have them shut the vehicle off, but that's what the book says, I believe. So shift test. And then so when you have them do a shift test, make sure that this is back down to 0 or around 20 to 30. Again, the book will tell you. I'm just going to put mine on 30. Lockup is off, even though it says 90. You can have it ready. So when you get into a position where you want lockup to come on, you just hit that lockup button and it's on. Otherwise, if this is 0 and you hit the lockup, then you have to hit this and this. So this will never be on until that is on. So you can just leave that at 90, and then when you're ready for lockup, hit it. So if you want to go through the gears, basically tell the customer start the vehicle, take it out of park and put it in drive. And once they put it in drive, they can hit that and they're in gear 1. And then they can just shift it manually, gear 2, 3, 4. And if they want lockup, hit lockup. So that's pretty straightforward. So this, of course, is going to affect your shift feel. So if they have harsh engagements, make sure they're at least at 20, 30, something like that. At the very maximum, you would want them at 40. Make sure they're driving at light throttle. If it's anything other than light throttle, it can slip the transmission because we're at a static pressure. We're controlling the pressure statically. It's not moving. It's at 30%. It's not moving with your throttle.